Hello and welcome to One Resource Floating. Today we are joined by Kayla, Ben,
Yo.
Majo Basil, and myself, the 86, and we are talking about the first member of the Arcane Rising crew, and that is Dash. So,
Yeah.
Kayla, I believe you had something to say about Dash, didn't you?
Yeah. Or wait, you said I don't know who you said.
Dash.
Did you?
Dash?
I
Oh,
thought you
it's
said
Kayla.
one
I
of
said
our
Kayla.
names.
I said Kayla.
Okay, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. You can cut all that out. Uh,
No, I'm gonna leave it in.
yeah. Dash is great. I mean, she is numerically first in Arcane Rising, but also the first hero that I ever played in Flesh and Blood. So all of the wonderful people that have started playing because of me, you started playing because of Dash. So she
I don't
is
like that.
MVP. But Doranthea is the best in my heart. But no, Dash is a phenomenal hero. She has an ability unlike any other where she actually starts her ability before the game even starts. You may put an item from your deck onto the battlefield at the start of the game. And you have to do it before you do the shuffles and you hand it to your opponent for them to cut and whatnot and draw your cards and choose who goes first and second. But it is an incredible thing to do with just her array of items that she can pull from, that you can sit down across from any hero and have a different item for each hero that you would choose to play against them first. So she truly has an incredible ability that puts her in a category of her own.
So coming in with that, Dash's ability really is, I don't know if you'd say before the start of the game. So you may start the game with a mechanologist item that costs 2 or less in play. And is she the only hero? I can't think of another one off the top of my head. Is she the only hero that has a not an actual like ability or action? She just has that before.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Because
so, yeah.
everyone else is, because even Datadol, which is another mechanologist hero later down the line, hers is a recurring effect throughout the game, and most other people's are stuff that's happening during like action phases.
They're all like activated or triggered abilities.
Yeah.
So Dash, I'll say, is one of the few or only that has that ability. So watch me later. I'll be like, oh, this character. Why didn't I think of them?
I
I'm
think it's
going
the
through
only.
like my head, and I literally cannot think of anyone because like the Monarch heroes, there's stuff that happens during the game. Even like Crucible and Everfest heroes, their stuff is during gameplay. She's one of a kind.
Yeah, one of
She
a
is.
kind Dash. So when you guys are sitting down, whether you're playing Dash or playing against the Dash, what are some things you got to have in the back of your mind? What are some key components there, or tell me what stands out?
In my head, the first thing you need to do when coming up against the Dash is figure out if they're going to play aggro or if they're going to play control, because that's going to massively change up how you play against them. Because you're either going to want to fatigue them out, or you might even be able to get enough damage through their defenses if they want to try to control you. But you really need to identify that as quickly as you possibly can. She's super
Hey, I got a
adaptable.
question, guys. So when you say fatigue them out, do you just mean basically block out until they exhaust their threats, and you hope that you draw into yours?
More or like, since they're gonna boost through their decks so quickly, you just be able to negate their big threats. Like when you see, let's see, was it high speed impact that's gonna give their next hit dominate? You know that something big's probably coming, so it's like this is the turn you want to block that out. But like zipper hits, 0 to 60s, all their like little attacks that kind of lead into the big ones, you can kind of block or let it slide as your hand allows. But you just really need to watch for the big hits, and those are the ones you're like, okay, I'm just gonna block everything and just let you keep going through cards.
Yep.
Yeah, because like other heroes have the keywords, like Rhinar has Intimidate, and ninjas have Combo, and warriors have Reprise. Mechanologist keywords are Boost, which is when you play an attack action card, you banish the top card of your deck. If it's also a mechanologist card, that mechanologist attack action gets go again. And if you're playing the type of aggro dashes who are going to attack 3 times with 3 cards from hand, they're going to be also spending 3 cards from their deck. So they are essentially using 6 cards in a turn. And in Blitz, in a 40 card matchup, you also have one on the field most likely. So there are only 39 cards in your deck, and you're doing 6 per turn. You are going to run out of cards faster than your opponent will, most definitely. And that is one of her biggest downfalls, is that with hard defenders like Guardians, maybe even like Warriors and some other ninjas who have defense reactions that can buff themselves, they will just block out until the dash goes to like 5 cards left, and then the hero goes, all right, now I begin hitting, and guess what? You have nothing to stop me.
On the flip side, you can also end up in a position where you have your induction chambers out and your plasma purifiers, and then you really don't need to banish anything anymore, and you can just go through and pitch to fire those off every turn. And
yep, that's your control players.
And it's not like, oh man, it's good to keep out, it's good to have, but if you are boosting, like, you banish the top card of a deck, there's no guarantee that what you're going to banish is going to be what you're going to want to see later.
That's also true. It's very upsetting for dashes to banish high octanes, maximum velocities, or Teklo cores. Those are probably the 3 things you do not want to see come off the top of the deck, because those are your turning points in a game.
So we talked a little bit. Let's go into control and aggro dash. What are some good control cards? Like, what are we going to see the control dash player playing?
I mean, the key cards are definitely Plasma Purifier and Induction Chamber, because that's what's going to get you your buffed pistol shots every turn, and just multiple pistol shots. And then most other things is you'll see a little bit of boost, but a lot of defense reactions, essentially.
Yep, you'll see a lot of fates, so they can actually see what's on top, if it's something they want to boost or not, and a lot of sink belows, because if it's something that they need to get to the bottom of the deck and get some more resources for a heavy pistol turn, because a dash can attack like 4 times in a turn. Of course, it's going to cost 4 resources or more, depending on your setup. So they need to have the resources to do it, but those defense reactions are going to really shut down your deck. And they're going to get those little squeak in, like, she's going to start blasting. And it's like, 2 damage may not seem that bad when you're at 20 health, but when you're at 6, it's going to start to get dangerous.
When you're playing a control dash, just prepared to hear pistol for 2 a lot.
Yeah. I'm going to add a counter. I'm going to remove a counter, pistol for 2. I'm going to give it a go again. I'm going to add a counter. I'm going to remove a counter. I'm going to pistol for 2. I'm going to give it a go again.
Repeat for 20 odd turns.
Yep.
And I don't think she cares, but it breaks the chain every time that those actions do.
It can matter.
That matter are Prisms and Guardians who run Ram's Head.
Yeah, because Ram's Head, you can just, or I guess equipment in general, but Ram's Head's the best equipment to keep blocking. Period. Yeah. You have that because you can buff it every time it blocks. So if you keep breaking the chain, it's blocking every attack.
So Majo, I think you were going to say something. I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I was going to say, we talked a little bit about it before, but would the Signal Jammer be considered a good card for control dash?
Oh.
In matchup dependent, 100%.
Yeah, like if you're doing a control dash against a warrior, I wouldn't worry about Signal Jammer as much, but if you're playing control dash against a Rune Blade, 100%.
Yeah, I was 86 played it against my Kano earlier, and it made me very sad.
Rune Blade,
that's
Kano,
also a really nasty one.
So, like, I thought what you said earlier, Kayla, was interesting, and it didn't occur to me that, you sit across the table from someone, and you don't know what gear they're going to flip over, but you know who they're playing. You can just pick any item that fits the match best, right? I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is so versatile in that very reason, that she can completely change the game plan just by who she's sitting across.
She's easily has one of the most diverse toolboxes in the game.
Literally.
Yeah.
Because they're all items.
Go gadget.
Steampunk is just, cool also. There's also that.
That's fair.
And
that's fair.
She also, like, she comes from a place that they haven't really mentioned a lot in lore, a lot like Azalea, who we'll probably talk about later. But her stuff is, like, truly incredible. Like some of the coolest art, just some of the coolest cards. The fact that a lot of it's cheap is just wrong.
The dash decks are probably just looking on if you want to get a deck starting off, whether it be Blitz or CC, like you're going to find a couple of expensive cards, maybe Tekla Foundry Heart, which we could talk about later. But for the most part, I don't think there's too many expensive cards in our deck, like equipment, and that being the one we can talk about. And the most expensive card I think you'll find out of anything is like about $3. So,
I mean, it's like where everything has boost. It's just even the commons are just so playable, and you have thousands of them everywhere. So, her main pieces, whatever. But like even her commons just are gonna slap.
Yeah, she is also just the best for commoner, which is a sort of fun type people have been playing.
Oh, I used to play Pauper and Magic, so I can get down with some commoner. I'm guessing that's just common.
It's essentially the same thing. Yeah, it's the Pauper version of Flesh and Blood is commoner.
Okay. That's cool.
So what's really interesting there, going in with that Signal Jammer talk, Dash, especially with Everfest, she has some very anti-meta tools. I don't see her like has Dash won ProQuest, has Dash been really good, has Dash performed outstanding? Yes, but no one thinks of her as like the top tier. No one says like, oh man, that Dash is really just destroying me. But she has some cards like between Signal Jammer, Dissolution Sphere, which blocks one.
That's the new one, yeah.
Shuts down Prism and shuts down Arcane, or for Rune Blades.
Yeah.
And just a lot of these tools, but she did have some stuff that you have to watch out for now too with Smashing Good Time, which is destroys an item.
Yeah.
True.
So going into this, you have a lot of tools, and your opponent could have some tools. Do you guys feel like it's something that you, at this moment, this could all change, but do you feel like it's something you need to be prepared for? Like,
yeah. I mean, she's definitely coming up in the meta.
Like, I think she's been more of like a sleeper hero where people have said, yeah, there's Dash, but we could do this more aggro hero, or we could do this more control hero. And with Everfest, it's just kind of been like, Dash has those tools now. She didn't before. She has them now. And I don't think she's gotten first place in anything recently, but there have been so many different like top 8s, and there's been a Dash there. And it's the fact that she is there above other heroes, that she is just kind of inching her way further up the totem pole. And she could 100% take it. It entirely just depends on the luck of the cards, I think, once you actually sit down against heroes who are the top, like the big 3 meme of Bravo, Star, Prism, and Viserai. But she's also there.
I feel like she just comes and goes. Like during the Briar meta, she was nowhere to be seen just because she couldn't beat Briar. I don't think she could beat Briar.
No.
But now that that's all handled, she's back, and she's just so good.
Well, it's the Briar nerf, but also the Signal Jammer, which if they hadn't even touched Briar, Signal Jammer would have been, like, there would have been Dashes everywhere. You would have seen top 8s, and you would have seen, like, 4 and 4 Briars and 4 Dashes, the Dashes who are stopping the Briars.
Just kind of going with that, if you go to the Flesh and Blood page currently, within 9 spaces, there is a Dash that won first set of ProQuest.
Well, there you go.
I did not see that. That is awesome.
As of the time of recording.
I said she finished runner-up in mine, so she's definitely
I have not been on the internets a lot today, so maybe I've just missed those news. But I have seen in a lot of top 8s a lot of Dashes. And it's nice to see that she has 1/1, because that'll put a shiver down all those Starvo spines.
I said her new tools are really handy.
So, you're sitting across from a Dash. You sit down, your opponent is playing Dash. What are things that you need to prepare for? What are things you need to think about for the upcoming match?
It's until you know what kind of dash you're facing, it's hard to fully plan for it. So like you take the first 2 turns and kind of gather what they want to do. So if they're gonna try to control you, then that means okay, I'm probably gonna have more cards in hand. You're just trying to find a way around it, whether it's to dominate or going wide, whatever you can to get around their defenses.
There are some subtle hints you could probably pick up on. Like if she pulls out a Teklo core, you're probably playing a more aggro version. Yep. If she pulls out an induction chamber, you're probably playing a more control version. So those subtle hints can maybe help you before the game starts, but you won't know until like turn 1, turn 2. If they're like, I'm gonna boost, and then like pitch this pistol for 2, then you're like, oh, I'm gonna play an aggressive dash. But if they're like, I'm going to play a card, boost once, load gun, shoot it twice, and then arsenal a card, you're playing a control dash. And so it's turn 1, turn 2, you'll have to figure that out yourself.
And so if you had either of those, what do you think? How would you react? What would your game plan be? I'm going in first. Do I need to sit up and then maybe I can block a little bit and go head to head, or do I need to sit back? What's my game plan?
I don't think you can outrace her is the problem.
If she's going to go full aggro, it's really hard to outrace her unless maybe you're chain or something where you can just get so many cards going. But most heroes are going to struggle to try to beat her to the 0.
Yeah. I mean, it's outracing her, you could get close, but I think she just literally has too much fuel. But the easiest thing to do is maybe try to outlive her and block out as much as possible. Now, if it's an aggro kind, she will most certainly deck herself at some point. She's going through 6, 7 cards a turn. She is going to deck herself. It's just a matter of how much damage can you block to allow yourself to live until the point she has no cards left to defend. And then you can just start attacking and there's literally nothing she can do. They'll get a point that a dash will look at their deck and just go, oh, there's no winning now. Because they know they've done it to themselves. But against control dashes, that's a harder matchup. You really have to try and push more power, but they're going to be okay with defending and only keeping like 1 or 2 cards in hand, and they're going to run more defense reactions that are going to help them. So I would say
best bets against control or dominate and go wide, probably.
Yeah, I was going to say control one is the harder one to sort of go up against, because aggro, it's just try to live, whereas control, it's I need to disrupt more than anything.
So for me, and I'm a new player, so take this with a grain of salt, but practiced a bunch of matches against 86, and I'm a Kano player in training, and so I normally run Ragamuffins, but when I realized what Dash could do, I was like, okay, I'm bringing in my Skullcap, right? So I'll take the 3 extra health. It's purely that, right? She doesn't have, in my experience playing against a few matches against 86, like she doesn't have a lot of really strong on-hit effects. It's just boom, 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 boom. It's like. It's relentless.
That is a good point. Like she has like no on-hit effects. There's a few here and there, like high speed impact will give her next attack dominate if it hits. But most of her cards are just pure damage.
Metal, I think, has an on-hit.
Which one?
Yeah, there's a
Pedal to the Metal. I think existed before high speed impact. It came out in Arcane Rising, and I think it had an on-hit effect.
It sounds right, yeah.
So
but I know high speed does definitely have on hit.
High speed for dominate, combustible courier for +3, and pedal to the metal.
Pedal to the Metal might be the next one you boost gets something, but I could be 100% wrong on that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's if it hits your next attack this turn gains dominate. That just says next attack. It doesn't say next mech attack. So as it could be a pistol shot.
Command and Conquer.
Or it could be Command and Conquer.
Do you run E-Strikes in Dash? I mean, is that just a card? It's an auto include in a deck like that?
If you're aggro Dash, you want to run full mech set 100%.
Yeah.
No, that's right, because you don't want to whiff.
You don't want to risk whiffing a boost. It'll ruin your whole thing.
I don't know if I've ever seen a control dash do Enlightened Strike. I think I've seen them do Command and Conquer simply because its on hit is just much more powerful.
But yeah, I don't see E-Strike being in a dash list. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't see it.
Won't lie.
That makes sense.
have one in my deck when I first started playing, but I also had like very limited resources, and I pulled one in a draft. So I was like, "This must be really good, right? Let's just
You pulled
put it in the deck."
You pull an E-Strike or Command and Conquer, just throw it wherever, because why not?
Put it in the deck.
Just so happy to have it.
Yeah, I think the only non-mechanologist card that is, I mean, some people will do defense reactions. If you want to go, you gotta be careful when you boost, because if you boost those, you don't get the ability, you don't get to go again, and then you also lose that card, so you don't have the ability to play it. So, depending on your type of dash, whether to boost or not may be a question that you ask yourself. The only non-mech cards I see in most decks are the Tome of Fyendal, and usually I see someone play them, get life, and then they'll pop the foot equipment as Achilles Accelerator to get an action point.
I hadn't
Yeah.
realized that. That's pretty good.
I have seen Dash players do that, where they'll do like a 0 to 60 boost, then Tome of Fyendal out of Arsenal, gain some life, pop Achilles, get an action point, do some more stuff with the cards. It is actually very useful in control decks with her, but I would not see an aggro person run.
That life will get you through the game.
That life will probably help her.
Cool. So we talked a little bit about when we're facing a dash. I'm gonna flip it a little bit, and some of this stuff's gonna be redundant. But when you're building a dash, tell me what you want to make in the deck and what you're thinking about putting in.
All copies of 0 to 60 and T-Bone. There you go.
Zipper hit solid.
Let's start there, and you've got a good base. Then probably put in 2 maximum velocities, 2 to 3 Tekla cores, depending if you're playing Blitz or CC, because Tekla core is just crazy good for her.
You run as many Tekla cores.
And then from there, just sort of decide how you want to play it. Do you want to play aggro, or do you want to play control? But basically, anything costs 0 that attacks that you can boost, put in there.
Yeah, it's pretty strong.
T-Bone's a very interesting card, in that you have to block with an equipment. However, depending on
That's not
matchup-
T-Bone.
Yeah, T-Bone's blocked with an equipment.
Yep.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you don't have to specify which equipment, though. There's another one that's...
Everfest card?
There's also Magnetic Shockwave is what you might be thinking of.
I was gonna say, you might be thinking of Shockwave, because T-Bone is just the...
If you
the
boosted, the opponent
If you-
has to
if you
talk...
boosted-
Yeah. Sorry,
You have to
go ahead.
block an
Oh,
equipment.
I saw cost 0 boost, and I was like, perfect. Put it in.
And that's another thing to note, before I go on here, a lot of her abilities you have to boost before the effect comes in, or it's the next card that you will boost. So going in with certain types of dash, boosting is pretty important. But
It's one piece in that puzzle together. It kind of reminds me of Katsu a little bit, where you've got your combo pieces. It's like, okay, which one do you have in your hand? You play something on the hit, you go and tutor, and so you're trying to fit that puzzle together. And with dash, you have to make sure you sequence it right. So that's pretty
It's
neat.
strange how both heroes can pivot from super aggro to super control depending on what they want to do. And they're both the best heroes to do that. The best pivoters, probably.
yeah, I think Dash and Katsu both definitely have a lot of similarities, and they have a lot of the same play styles. But
Either
They
death
work.
by a bunch of small attacks, or I'm going to do a bunch of big attacks in a row.
or you
The
do a
only
bunch of
difference
small
is-
attacks into that maximum
Velocity.
velocity.
Maximum velocity.
The only difference is Katsu threatens on hits while Dash is mostly pure damage.
Yeah. Although with Tech Founder, that damage is going to hurt.
It adds up.
So going back.
See what? Go ahead.
Sorry, I forgot about it. I'm gonna say it this time. T-Bone. They don't actually have to block. If you have someone that has like a
0. Here.
yeah, if you have a
Zero block?
Snapdragon
Like
even,
Metacarp?
yeah,
Yeah.
they can still block
They can
with that
block that.
0. So you're not forcing that tunic block like you were hoping for right off the bat.
See, it was fun because when I was playing against the Dash, they played T-Bone. I looked at my equipment, like I had Findall, Spring Tunic, Skull Cap, Phantasmal Footsteps, and Ironhide. I'm like, well, I don't really want to waste a block on like a 2-hit T-Bone with an equipment. Crap. Like Skull Cap and Tunic would just ruin my day. So I'm like, I can just throw Ironhide in there for 0 block and just not pay it. So it worked out. But if he threw another T-Bone, I'd been scared.
I was gonna say, and then you get into the thing of, are they trapping you? Because they could also come in with if they did the T-Bone, I'm gonna get them to block with their stupid card. Like they're gonna block with their Time Skippers, they're gonna block with their Ironhide and not pay for it, stuff like that. And then they come in with Megasonic, and now you're forced to use your good equipment.
Are you talking about Magnetic?
Yeah, that's the one.
Magnetic, yeah.
So Magnetic is actually they have to defend with X equipment, where X is the number of times you've boosted this combat chain. So yes and no. Like you could still force them to block with Magnetic without doing T-Bone, but if you don't have a lot of things to boost, then that's a good way to just, that's one thing to boost. So then if you boosted once, they're going to have to block with another equipment. If you boosted twice, well, okay, now I'm forcing 3 equipment blocks. So yeah, it's definitely a way to add everything up.
It's a nice tool to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She is tricky with order of effects, for sure.
And that's really important to what we want to talk in again, that combat chain. Because if you break it, they're just going to go right back to, okay, let's block with a 0 again.
The moment you break the combat chain is the moment you can reuse your equipment to block.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for that reason, does she struggle against the what's that one warrior equipment that you can remove counters from it?
Oh, Valiant Dynamo.
Yeah,
right?
Is that a bad matchup for her because of that?
Not necessarily, because they have to have a turn to remove the counter from Dynamo. So if you're attacking 3 times in a row with the pistol, they can block once with Dynamo, but then it has a counter on it, so it doesn't block anymore. So
got it.
I would say not for Dynamo.
Okay.
But yeah, Guardian's Rampart of the Ram's Head is a killer for breaking the chain, because it can just keep blocking and blocking and blocking and blocking.
So is Phantasmal Footsteps for Prisms.
Yeah, it's nice.
Fantastic.
That's actually as a new player. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, 86.
No, that's all I'm gonna say. You got it.
I was gonna, as a new player, like literally less than 3 months into the game, breaking the combat chain and understanding like the implications of that has been, it hasn't come up a whole lot, but as you guys just explain it here with cards that that they don't get destroyed when they block, you pay a resource, they can continue to do something, right? So you can recommit them to the new chain, so that it actually helps to illustrate what it means to break the chain and implications of it. So,
and that's something you'll also just pick up with time, of how combat chains can twist and turn, and like breaking them, and how it's actually more beneficial sometimes or more hurtful in others. But it's a play and learn type thing, is the combat chain.
Because it doesn't come up often, but when it does come up, it can make a big difference.
Yeah.
I think the big thing to note is I'm trying to think if there are any exceptions. But if you play a non-attack, that is breaking the chain. So your attack is essentially attack something, or attack, reaction, and then or lack thereof, and then attack, and you kind of keep going across that chain. And so that's really important to keep note. Instants are a exception, right?
I love that you all just nodded in agreement of like.
No one ever has a problem with what you say, except I'll. I'm just kidding.
100% accurate as always.
Yes, you seem like a credible source to me.
100%.
It's on the internet, so it must be true.
I definitely didn't get T-Bone wrong.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about that, and there are a lot of different examples we can go into, but there's not too much combat chain. There are some things, but Dash is going to be, I feel like, mostly ignorant of it. because of all she does. And again, that's going to be the type of dash, but yeah. So we talked about dash. We didn't say this making our deck. Blues, reds, yellows. What am I putting in?
Probably a lot of blue. You only want reds and yellows in the cards that matter.
Whereas was it the 0 to 60 is good to have in every color, just because 0 boost is great.
Yeah, it's a 0 attack. I mean, even like a red only comes in for 4 damage, but 4 is a nice number because if it's lethal, it requires a 2-card block as compared to a 1-card block. But yeah, you want a heavy amount of blues if you're playing control. Or blues just also help for those turns of big, like payload costs 2, maximum velocity costs 2. If you're running like throttle, it'll cost 2. So she does have cost cards. Not everything is cheap, but you need to be able to pay for those things. Because there's nothing worse than getting like a 4-card hand and it being 3 cost 0 red cards when you're like, yeah, this is great. And then the last card's a maximum velocity, and now you have no way to pay for that maximum velocity.
And I think it also goes into when Dash comes to the end game, for example. She's got 10 cards left in deck. She's at a position I'm like, I really don't want to boost anymore. Having those blues come in, like, well, you know what? I'm gonna load the pistol. I'm gonna load my induction chamber, which is a reaction to give my things go again. And I'm gonna load the plasma purifier, which does that for the whole turn. So hopefully I have those things out by that point. A couple of them might have got banished with boost. And then it's just pitch to load, react, load, react, load, react, and kind of keep going that way. And that's still like, if you get 3 induction chambers out, you're going to be firing the pistol 4 times.
Yep.
And for each plasma purifier, so if you have 1, then each pistol's coming in for 3. If you have 2, each pistol's coming in for 4. And if you have 3, each pistol's coming in for 5. So that's 20 damage, and you're not expending any cards from hand.
You're
Sounds
recycling everything back into the deck. And 5 is also higher than most other hero weapons without buffs. So, doing pretty good.
Yeah, if you get that far, that's killer.
We've talked about some good stuff that you want to look for, some good stuff to have. I'm going to say at least 50% blues in your deck if you're in constructed.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah.
What about blitz? I'm not too familiar with dash blitz.
I mean, 50%, give or take a little bit, still probably about right.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have to pay for the max velocities.
550.
Gotcha.
Because it's also like a lot of her like good stuff, like Teklo Core, now Teklo Pounder, like all that stuff comes in blue anyway. So you're gonna have a naturally blue heavy deck just because a lot of her good cards are blue strips. So.
Gotcha. Moving on. So we're constructing the deck. Let's talk about equipment. I think that the chest is probably one thing that we can bring up, and that's probably the most expensive part you can have in the deck. There could be one more expensive card, but it's not Mechanologist. And that's going to be the Teklo Foundry Heart. And that is, if you've boosted this turn, you banish 2 from the top of your deck and get 1 resource for each Mechanologist card banished that way.
Should be noted that it costs 1 to do that, too.
Yeah, so you are trading 1 for 2 resources, which could be useful in a pinch.
So here's an interesting question. This is essentially boost, but it does not have the boost keyword. Am I boosting?
No.
No.
It is only boost if it says boost.
Yep. Teklo's banish does not count as a boost.
Yes, I guess I never even thought to specify that, but yeah, I guess it's probably important for like max velocity and things like that.
Maximum velocity is going to be your big damage dealing card. What about some other chest equipments? Is there anything you guys think of that?
Are we gonna fight about Heart and Cross Trap for Deep Blue again?
I think it's Deep Blue.
I like Cross Trap and Dash. personally.
Resources is better than a cheaper card.
I like Cross Trap because you only need the one turn and it
Next
enables the
video.
max velocity.
Next video, 30-minute debate. I will have a slideshow presentation on why I think Deep Blue is better. I know the voice will be on my side. So
I think it's situational because with Deep Blue you have to bottom deck a card, and then with Cross Trap it's 2 less on the next one. I think with Guardian, I think that Cross Trap is better, but with typically the way I play Dash, it's a lot of like 0 cost, and then maybe I want to use those get resources so I can load the pistol or the induction chamber or the plasma purifier or play a couple things. So on this one, I'm going to say Deep Blue.
I just think it's important so you can enable the max velocity without using a card. So you can have it's easier to get the 3 boost into a max velocity without struggling too much.
See on this,
That's my thought.
This one has been.
I mean, it's really only for the max velocity. If you're going to control and do the pistol thing, yeah, Deep Blue all the way. I'm not going to argue that. But if the goal is to hit off a max velocity, I think the Cross Trap's the best way to do that.
you know what the glorious thing is that you can bring both and decide at the table.
This is true.
What you want to do. That is the glorious part about equipment.
It's Blitz, so in Blitz it doesn't take up your spot. In Constructed, then you make sure you have the appropriate spots for it.
Yes. Blitz, you have 11 spots. You should be fine.
Yeah.
Just put it all in there. Deep Blue, Cross Trap, Iron Rot, everything.
I want people to say, I want comments. Deep Blue is better.
Okay, here's another question. Do you run the pistol or the plasma barrel shot?
Oh god, there's no question, pistol.
I think we didn't even mention the plasma barrel shot.
Because it doesn't need to be mentioned.
You know what the sad thing is? It's a rare. Like I think, isn't it?
It is. It's a
Rare
rare
sounds
from
right.
Crucible.
Yeah, it's like.
And I've never seen a deck run it.
I have
You've not seen the voice. The voice runs it.
He doesn't anymore. Yeah, he learned. He learned.
See, that's interesting to me. Like, so Ranger got a new bow in Everfest. Wizard got a new weapon, and it seems like sometimes you just can't, can't get any better than what's already out there. It seems, right? Like,
yeah, you can't.
They started strong.
Fix what's not broken. Like it's the top tier. You can't get any better than it.
mm-hmm. Yeah. I just find that interesting. I was going to ask that question about are there alternative weapons for Dash, and you guys, it sounds like the resounding answer is technically yes, but not really.
Technically yes, but no.
I mean, it costs 2 to load
11.
it, and its base attack is 0. It only gets +1 attack for every time you've boosted. So, like, absolute max you're going to get out of it is 5, and that's not consistent in the slightest.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just I'd take a much more reliable pistol shot for 2 every single time.
Yep.
Pistol shot is 1.
And it costs 1 to load.
Yeah. And costs 1 to load, nothing to fire. Whereas this costs 2 to load, and it's a once per turn action. So you can't like induction chamber it. Yeah, everything. Yeah. So
it's
that's
a
the weapon.
End of turn shot.
Yeah.
No, it sucks.
So there's your weapon. Headpieces. This could be the thing that's more expensive. If you run, is anyone gonna say it?
Skull cap.
Yeah, if you run skull cap.
Yeah. It's just hard to beat skull cap because you just want the block. You're gonna need it for when you want to keep an extra card in hand.
He does. He does have a headpiece, and it does have Arcane Barrier 2, which can be more useful than Skullcap, because Skullcap has a very big clause in how you can use the Arcane Barrier. But just defense-wise, yes, Skullcap is better, and I hate it. That every single time we've done this, it's like, Skullcap, use Skullcap, except for ninjas.
There's a reason they reprinted it. It's just too good.
Well, we'll talk about some coming up that I think we could say not Skullcap.
True.
Yeah, there are some coming up that will not need Skullcap.
But they're class specific, so they like you're not gonna say
When
that.
you have a headpiece that is just the best, then you don't need it.
Yeah.
But for mechanologist, it's kind of wishy-washy in how useful it can be.
Yeah. And so the alt, I think I don't know if we actually said it. If you were saying that you said the ability on it, I think. But
Yeah, we didn't actually name it.
But yeah, it was like the Visatronic Model II or something.
Yeah, Sonic Model I. Yeah, you'd only keep it out for the Arcane Barrier, I think. Which
I can only see it in the Kano matchup.
Yeah, you could do it in Null Rune. Technically, okay. So we're gonna talk feet next. I don't think there's a better foot option than Achilles Accelerator.
Nah, it's so good. Just the Arcane Barrier on it, and then it can enable like just that extra action you need just to either close the game or push enough damage that they have to block out. It's great.
And it's a common.
Yeah,
And it's a common.
It's the common equipment, and you can't beat it right now. Like, unless they make something later down the line, like some better boots. I don't know how you could, unless it was like gain 2 action points, but it costs like 3 resources. Then maybe, but still, just I think the only downfall is I don't think it blocks for anything physical.
Nah. Next up, we're getting Arcanite Greaves.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
That would actually. I guess I kind of derailed it a little bit. Is there a common headpiece that you guys would use for dash if you don't have Skullcap or? I'm gonna retract a little bit. I'm sorry.
An Ironhide helm, maybe.
So just Iron Rod or Iron Hide, I guess, is probably the best bet.
I've seen some control dashes, like early on, use Talismanic Lens. But
I mean, if you're worried about what you're boosting off the top,
it's mainly
depends.
I could hit something I don't want to hit on this boost. Let me make sure. But that was also like if you literally had nothing else to choose, you choose Talismanic.
It's a nice fallback to have at least.
Yeah, that makes sense if you do have, for some reason, E-Strikes in your deck, and you're planning to win on like this turn, and you save that Talismanic Lens for the absolute most critical moment to guarantee you're boosting a mech card. So
Reduce
that's a card that
you
I'm thinking about playing in Kano, but
It's very good in Kano.
That's because it comes out of nowhere. Your opponent's not going to freaking expect it. It's like nourishing. You just, oh crap, I guess I have to block now.
All right. So since we talked about head, chest, legs, arms.
I mean, I think Dash is kind of in a spot with Guardian legs in that your arms are just kind of a toolbox. I think most of the time you just run Goliath Gauntlet for just those big dominate hits or a max velocity. Yeah. But I mean, of course, it's easy. If you need the extra arcane, it's an easy spot to slot in Null Rune gloves.
Yeah, it's something that you can choose just how you want to use it. You could also what are they called? Stubby hammerers, I think, or like all attack action cards with attack 3 or less get +1 for the turn. So if you've got like a bunch of like 0 to 60 blues or T-bone yellows where it's coming in for just like 2 damage, you could pump them up to 3.
That would be pretty nasty.
Or if you're
confused.
Oh no, I was just thinking because if you're also the control matchup, you can just play Ironhide, just extra block.
Yeah. Yeah, you can have a field day of what generic arms you want to use. I think Goliath Gauntlet is what I use personally because for those maximum velocity turns, it's nasty. It's great. But
Yeah,
you
that's
can
generally the go-to, but there's a lot of options. It kind of depends on how you want to play Dash, and most of the options are cheap. They're all most of them are commons, I think, if not all of
Yeah.
them.
If you want to talk about things that are a trap, I think that what is it? Aether. What is it?
Aether Sync.
Yeah.
Aether Sync is not a
I
trap.
think it's a trap.
How dare you?
Thank you,
I
Andrew.
would beat-
Someone else said it. That's not me. Thank
I
God.
would beat Chris's Kano every time with Aether Sync.
It's super situational because if you don't have it against Kano, it feels super bad.
You're against Kano, you play it.
But it's,
Well, yeah, it's a
it's
given if
3
you have it.
resources, so you have to load it for 1, and then you have to pay 2 to get the Arcane Barrier 2 off. Like, why wouldn't you just, like, there's so many...
Sure.
What?
It's a setup.
It's a setup for a trap. That's what it is.
What? You're a liar.
So you gotta pay a resource to load it, and then when my
I
opponent
feel
is
like you
doing
have enough.
something... What is it? Yeah. We're gonna go into this again. Whoops.
I feel like you have enough arcane barrier and equipment to survive a game with
It's
Kano.
not
You do not
trash.
need the extra.
Yeah, if you're going up against Kano, then if you have head, gloves...
You should already have
boots-
a minimum 3 in your equipment. So I mean,
Guess what? I bumped it to 5. Nothing's getting
Why?
past.
you don't need to block 5. The only thing that you need it for is Fork Lightning, and hopefully you've pushed enough damage by the time he actually gets it off.
Well, there's it's an Aether Wave. It deals 4, and then each one it deals that on each attack after the turn.
Wildfire.
Wildfire. Aether Wildfire. I'm so sorry.
You know what? That is true. That does change Kano's game plan a little bit. That he can actually, oddly enough, go wide in a way. Where if you just throw an Aether Wildfire and like snap back or something, like that's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the other
Well,
hand, you're going to be... Most dashes can be either play a lot of control, and if you have something like the Signal Jammers out, or I think Dash can just out-aggro him.
I think it's something you don't necessarily need to run.
Yeah.
You'd rather just have more attacks. But, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe.
I run it and I beat Kano. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's fair. That's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
You have experience that led to your wrong
My cat
conclusion.
is getting on my nerves.
So, all right. So we're
Jeez.
talking through all this stuff with equipment and cards and traps and everything else. Any final words you guys have on Dash? Anything you want to say?
She's good.
I'm super happy Dash is in the meta right now. She's fun to play against, and she's just fun to
She's
play
even more
itself.
fun to play as, honestly.
Yeah. I like her as a hero, and I just don't even regularly play her, and I like her as a hero.
Yep. I hope she gets more recognition because she is a really good hero.
There is something to be said for, my opponent has 4 cards. They're going to probably pitch, at best, you can pitch 1 and play 3. Usually it's going to be pitch 2 different cards to play 2 different things. So you're going to have roughly your opponent, or on a normal deck, 2 actions, maybe 1, maybe 3 on a turn. Dash, there's something to be said for like, well, now I'm going to do this. 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 Now I'm going to undo everything so I can fire this pistol after I just loaded it. And then I have to keep at it. So yeah, there is something fun to do with like just having a lot to do on your turn.
And I think it's fun to kind of just play with her toolbox of just all her options for different matchups.
Yep.
It's so neat how you can just kind of prepare for the matchup straight out of the game with an item.
Cool. All right, final chance for words. All right. Well, this has been Dash. Thanks for joining us, guys. And let us know in the comments. Apparently, we're still having this Deep Blue and Heart and Cross trap argument. But while you're commenting on that, you can tell us why you think that Aether Sync is a trap. Thanks to you for joining us. Joining in, but I can't talk now. All right. See ya. Us out.
Bye.
See ya.